Hubert Stein was a very well-known, award-winning author from Boston, Massachusetts. He had a very interesting and intriguing life. But what was unfortunate was that after his mysterious and sudden death, reporters, journalists, and others couldn't get much information about his personal life and what he was like outside of his books. His wife, Rosemary Stein, couldn't share anything about him, not because she didn't want to, but because she didn't know. A few months after his demise, it was found that Hubert Stein didn't have a great relationship with his wife at all, though they were married for years. Rather, in the months before he passed away, he was involved with another young woman named Leah Zimmerman, who seemed to know much more about him than anybody else. Leah Zimmerman wasn't married to Hubert, nor did anyone know about their secret love affair. But when she came forth with his child, there was no way to deny the relationship they had. When time had gone by and the controversy had cooled down, journalists often visited the Stein mansion where Leah Zimmerman now lived with her son, Ronald Stein. They requested for interviews just to get a sneak peek into what the life of Hubert Stein, their cherished author, was like. Mrs. Zimmerman, I'm sure Hubert Stein has shared many stories about his life experiences with you. Could you please share one with us? Sure, but I must correct you on one thing. Please address me as Mrs. Stein. Yes, of course, Mrs. Stein. This story is from a long time ago. At the time, Hubert had written a few books already and was working on his next novel. But strange as it may sound for a great writer like himself, Hubert was suffering from writer's block. He decided to travel out to a place where he could relax, where it was quiet, not to mention beautiful and peaceful. So Hubert packed his bags. He rarely ever took much with him. As a matter of fact, when I first met him, he only had a few items you could count with your fingers in his new apartment. He didn't know how to cook, and I don't even think he had the things needed to cook. I used to make him dishes and visit him every day. Leah took a moment to pause and cherish the memory she had with Hubert. The reporter nodded his head. Mrs. Stein, so is this how your relationship with Hubert Stein began? I see what you did there, but that's a story we'll leave for another day. Now let me get back to what I was saying. Hubert decided to go to Stockbridge in Massachusetts, and you must know how that town is literally tucked into beautiful forestry and hiking trails. He went far out and booked a hotel, which was situated literally in the middle of nowhere. Only after a long walk could anyone ever see any other stores or shops, not to mention people. The hotel wasn't too grand. You could rather call it a large motel. Hubert booked the cheapest room there since he planned to stay for a long time. While he was there, he got to witness some strange people, who he couldn't quite understand even after all that was to happen in the coming days. Sometimes he would sit in the lobby where there was a lounging area, and sometimes he would stick to his room where he would spend a lot of time just staring out into the open wilderness through the window. On the first evening, while he was sitting in the lobby, a strange man came and sat next to him. And strange not only because of the way he looked, but because of the way he spoke. The man was wearing very old, worn-out clothes. An odd odor emanated from him. His hair looked like it had never been combed, and not to forget the baggy, droopy eyes that made him look quite scary. Hello there. You must be a tourist. Well, we're at a hotel. I'm guessing we're all travelers around here. Yes, indeed. Where are you from? I'm from Massachusetts. You? I'm from here too. The creepy man suddenly held Hubert's wrist and started examining his watch. This looks like a special watch. Do you always wear this? How much does it cost? Hubert pulled his hand away and sat back a little freaked out at the man's unusual behavior. Excuse me? Which room are you staying in? Please, could you give me some space? As Hubert was dealing with this overly intrusive guy, there was a commotion at the reception. A woman was yelling at the manager saying one of the waiters at the hotel had been misbehaving with her. and soon enough her things had started to go missing. She demanded that all the workers be lined up so she could point him out. To put an end to the havoc, the manager called all the workers. Unfortunately, the woman didn't recognize anyone, but still went on that her things had gone missing and she wanted a refund. That waiter, who does he think he is? Some sort of lover boy? He thinks he can go around and flirt with the people checking in here? I'll surely give this hotel a bad review if I don't get a refund. Hubert started to have some regrets about checking into this hotel. It wasn't as great as it looked on the outside. There was perhaps some sneaky things going on inside, because they might have not noticed, but Hubert could see one of the waiters who had sneaked away. The waiter was watching the whole incident from the halls. By the time Hubert returned his focus to the lobby, he noticed the strange man was long gone. He checked for all his things and was relieved that he hadn't lost anything. After that incident, Hubert started to stay in his room, and when he needed some fresh air, he went out for a walk. But over the next few days, Hubert realized how awful the hotel really was. Not only was there issues with the staff, but there were issues with the guests as well. Since Hubert spent a lot of time thinking and pondering over his work, he didn't tolerate any disturbances when it came to his sleep. But every evening, and sometimes through the night, he would hear knocking on one of the walls. The first night, Hubert ignored it, but when it happened again the next night, Hubert knew someone was intentionally doing it. He called the front desk and complained. They assured him that they would handle the matter. Hubert went to sleep that night, and he didn't hear any noises, but he was also unsure whether it was because he was too tired to notice them. The third evening went by quiet. Hubert had assumed that the hotel had warned the next-door guests. But by nightfall, the knocking started again. There was no way to ignore it, and Hubert angrily called up the front desk. But this time, the manager was a little irritated. "Mr. Stein, the staff has already informed the guests that are staying in the room besides you. We're all trying to cooperate here. Please, Mr. Stein, try to understand." Hubert wasn't someone that liked to argue. He always tried to make peace. He was a peace-loving person. "Ah, I see. We have always known Hubert Stein to be kind and loving, one who avoided quarrels. Do you think it was this characteristic of his that led him to suddenly leave his home and his wife just months before he passed away?" You see, I really don't want to go off topic here. If you would like to know about Hubert's love life, we can discuss that another day. All I can say is that he wanted happiness. Now back to the story. That night, Hubert tolerated those disturbing noises. However, when the knocking continued for the fourth night straight, Hubert went down to the front desk himself to bring the manager up. "Excuse me, I don't know what kind of hotel you people are running, but there is no way a person can relax staying here. This is the fourth night that I haven't been able to sleep properly. You must speak to these people." The manager furrowed his brows and checked the register. "Mr. Stein, there's no way there could be any noise coming from the room next door. The guest checked out early this morning, and we haven't given the room to anyone else after that. It's vacant." "What? This is impossible. Perhaps someone else is in there, because the knocking is unignorable. You must come with me right now. You can hear it for yourself." Hubert and the manager both went to the room, where Hubert put his ear to the wall. The manager looked at him like he was crazy. "Mr. Stein, what are you doing?" "I've been hearing the noise from this wall." The manager was surprised. He put his ear to the wall for a while and then said, "Mr. Stein, I thought you were complaining about the other side, because there is no room behind this wall. The room is on the other side." "What nonsense. Are you trying to fool me out of this one?" "Come with me, Mr. Stein." The manager took Hubert outside and took out a pair of keys. It took him a while to find the right one, but he eventually did, and he opened the next door towards the wall Hubert had been complaining about. Hubert was a bit shocked to see it was a janitor's closet. "Mr. Stein, this is what I've been telling you. How could anyone be in here? This is just a storage room for extra items. Housekeeping doesn't even enter this room." Hubert stepped inside. Something was fishy. That's when he noticed a necklace laying on the ground. He picked it up. "What is this doing here?" The manager widened his eyes. "This belongs to Mrs. Hathaway. She created a whole scene the other day in the lobby about her missing jewelry." Both the manager and Hubert looked around the room. They were shocked to discover that someone may have been hiding out in that room. There were food wrappers, other lost items stacked in the corner. The items were given out to their owners and the police were called to investigate. The security footage allowed them to discover a strange, most likely homeless man had been walking around the hotel at night. He was the one hiding out in the janitor's closet. The police were, however, unable to locate him. The hotel manager assured everyone that better security measures would be taken, but nearly half of the guests checked out in the following days. Hubert, however, was feeling much better. He not only helped solve the mystery, but now he didn't have to worry about disturbances. He was one of the few people in the entire hotel now. That evening, he was finally able to work on his novel. He went to bed late that night, but something unbelievable happened. As soon as he shut his eyes, he heard the knock from that wall again, and that time there could be no explanation to it. Wow, what an experience. Do you suppose there was something more in that room? Well, there's nothing we can know for sure, but there was something. Mrs. Stein, this actually reminds me of one of his novels, The Mystery Behind the Necklace. Was this the incident that inspired him? A writer's life is full with experiences. This is only one of the many strange things that happened to Hubert. Perhaps I'll be able to share them with you over time. Click on the subscribe button and check out more awesome videos on our channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon because you know it's interesting.